Hi everyone and welcome along. Now before I tell you all about today's tutorial, I've got something so exciting to show you. I've been doing loads more painting out and about recently, and I've been carrying my paints along with me and really wanting something lovely to carry them all in. And so I came up with a lovely tote bag with a really cool design on it that I think you're going to love. So I wanted to show you. What do you think of this? This is a brand new tote bag. Have paints, will travel. It feels kind of perfect. And this is now available in my Etsy shop and website shop. It's a gorgeous natural canvas tote bag, really lovely thick canvas quality with this design which I created on the front, and I think it's pretty awesome. So you can get your hands on one of those now. But what is possibly even more exciting about this is what is inside the bag. We've got something else to show you. Look at this. This is our very own watercolour paper pad, created by the wonderful people at Frisk, who have made me a beautiful 100% cotton watercolour paper pad. It's cold pressed. It's actually paper that I've been using for quite a while in our YouTube videos, and now it is available for you as well. And of course it's got my very own catchphrase on the front. We couldn't not have grab your paints and let's get started, and a lovely design featuring loads of watercolour paintings by me. So you can also get your hands on this watercolour paper pad either completely individually in the shop or as part of our brand new revamped watercolour kits, which also features one of those wonderful erasers that I was showing you how to rub out the pencil with a few weeks back. Anyway, let's talk about what we're going to paint today. So we're going to do a really gorgeous scene of a fishing boat on a lake, a really lovely calm serene painting scene, and a great introduction to landscape painting. So grab your paints and let's get started. Hi everybody. Okay, so what I've done is I've masked off an A5 piece of paper. So this is my new paper pads just cut in half. And then I'm just using a set square to draw a line that is just a little bit higher than halfway across, because I want to get my horizon line for the water. And then I'm actually going to get my tape again. I'm doing something slightly different today. I'm going to try out masking off the area because I want to just try and get a bit of a difference in terms of colours and things on the water from the sort of sky edge. So I've got my mop brush here, and I'm just going to wet the top section of paper. It's a really warm day in the UK, and that means that the paper's going to be drying just that bit faster. It's probably for a lot of you who are in warmer climes than the UK, you're like, yeah, whatever, I always have to deal with this, Harriet. Well, I do apologise that I'm talking about it like it's a phenomenon. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I've taken a little bit of cobalt blue deep there, but I'm diluting it right back, and I'm also going to mix up some permanent rose, just bring this down a little bit, permanent rose and some yellow ochre to create a very, very dilute sort of blush colour as well. I might actually make it a little bit more orange, so a bit more yellow ochre than pink. You can see it's very much a very dilute colour here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my one stroke brush, make sure it's wet, make sure it's clean, and I'm going to begin by painting in that blush colour. And it's such a faint, delicate colour, but when you get that crisp edge coming up, it's going to show up. And then I'm going to bring in some sky. By the way, that's a little pencil mark, just ignore that. Bringing that down. Such subtle pale colours, not a lot going on at all. But what we are going to do is we're going to create a faded, sort of hazy treescape. So I've got green gold here and sap green all woken up there. And then I also need Payne's Grey. And I'd like a little bit of burnt sienna too. This painting is all about being patient or being quick off the mark. It's a lot about timing today. So we're all going to have different temperatures, we're working in different humidities, but just keep an eye on your page. You want to sort of check it's still got the tiniest bit of a reflective surface on it, but no puddling of water. Okay, I'm going to take my pointed round size 6 and I'm going to start just using the brush quite low, angled low to the page, and I'm creating a sort of tree canopy here. I'm using the brush quite sparingly. I might have a little bit more come over. And then I'm going to create one that's actually sort of more of a shrub, maybe, just coming upwards from that side. It's quite good for composition too. I'm now going to take my sap green and I'm going to add some lowlights to my tree. All these colours are going to dry a lot lighter, so it might feel a bit scary to be putting them on quite strongly like this, but I promise you they will dry lighter. So I'm just sort of trying to find the underside. And then on this one, just sort of creating a bit of a darker sort of edge as well, framing it. Because what's wonderful is later on, once these have all sort of seeped in, we might sort of add a branch or two. And now I've got Payne's Grey and I mixed it in with a little bit of burnt sienna, so we've got a really quite dark colour. So just go cautiously with this. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to paint it in like a riverbank there, but then I'm going to send it upwards and just bring it in from the side and add little bits just on the side there, not too much. And then on this side, just sort of framing from the corner again. Okay, I'm really pleased with that. We're going to leave that now to dry 100%, and then we're going to peel off the paper and look at the bottom half of the page. Okay, I'm going to peel this off, having let that dry for a few minutes. Okay, wow, what a lovely crisp line. I know we have got the pencil line as well, but you can see just the difference in the pale wash there. It does make a difference. So now I'm going to take my mop brush once again, and I'll work my way up from the bottom just so I'm being careful. And as I get to the top, just try my best not to disturb that painting on the top. That's looking nice. And now I am going to start to create the water. So we're going to have reflections. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mix some of that shady, shadowy mix into my green gold here to make a slightly murkier version. And I'm going to bring in colour from the side on both sides, and I'm going to let that sort of creep in, just little bits coming across. And you know, you could always add maybe a little bit of the sap green in as well. And then I've not forgotten about that very pale blush wash we did. So I've mixed up a bit more and just a little bit stronger, and I'm going to bring that up from the bottom. And I'm turning my brush on its side now. On its side, just a few little lines like that. Just merge it a little bit in the middle, and that's looking really nice. So we need to let that dry again, or I might just get a little bit of extra darkness. I think that's going to help us. It's all about the framing of the piece, drawing the eye inwards. This brush is so good for this, the Pro Art flat-headed brush, because you can see if you use it on its side it sort of tapers in really nicely. This is available in my shop as part of the Bloom brush set. Really useful set of brushes in addition to your pointed rounds. Let's let this dry. Got my set square back. I just want a straight line across to help me draw in my fishing boat, or little rowing boat. So there we've got a sort of sat on the water, and with pencil I am going to create, so we've got the, oh here we go, the stern and the bow. The bow is the front, the stern's the back. I have to remind myself of that. So the bow is going to be just a bit higher. I'm going to bring that down. And you know, your boat can take all kinds of forms, but I'm going to have someone sat so let's have a person. So we've got a sort of torso shape, I don't know, the fishermen amongst you might be like, that's very forward to be sat in the boat. You're right, should we make it a bit longer? There we go. So no one's going to be keeling over. And then we'll have a shoulder, have a head. You see, I'm doing very sort of strange little basic shapes. And I'm just trying to sort of make a bulk of a body. And then I'm going to have a little, what do you call it, fishing rod. And maybe there's some other things, provisions and things in the boat. But that's as simple as we're going to go. And then for the rest of the piece, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring this down, this section here. So I'm going to add a little pencil line there so I know. And we might even have a little bit, and then we'll have some reeds and things, but maybe just a few little horizontal lines to remind ourselves where we're going to put some things. So now that the page is dry, we can start adding in a bit more detail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start work over here, and I'm going to be using my Payne's grey and sap green in much more concentrated form than they were. And I'm going to start sort of using my size 2 brush and sort of creating a bit of a textured bank. I mean, it's still quite far in the distance, so I'm not going to be going too detailed, but I'm just using the top half of it and just getting some little bits of grass. And then I'm going to get my Payne's grey in quite quickly and just create that sort of lower edge, and maybe a few bits of, just bring it up a little bit. So it's all about layering up really. And I might leave a little bit of dry brushing in there. That's kind of the beauty of these brushes, is this is a size 2 brush and yet it's doing some really rather detailed work. Now what I want to do is actually create the sense of a tree trunk. So I'm just sort of scattering the brush as far as I feel I can, and then I'm going to take my rigger brush, which is this lovely long slender bristled brush, which is just fantastic for properly good thin lines, branches. It's just wonderful for. Look how fine it can go. I'm not sort of suggesting that the tree and the green behind it are necessarily connected, but it sort of seems to work quite nicely. Okay, so that's a rather lovely sort of bit of a bit of bank. So now I'm going to sort of come in and do the same thing in a few other spots. So I'm starting to sort of come down the piece and put in extra little bits in the water, so we'll have a look at those. So I'm going to begin with a nice sort of pale wash, and as we get closer we're going to sort of see more light on things. So I'm just placing in just a few kind of rocks on the bank with my size 2 brush. And then I'm going to take my Payne's Grey, my rigger brush, and I'm just sort of scribbling about really with it. I think it's important not to be too sort of precise or neat. And then I've been using the size 2 brush to just create a little bit of a reflection by just with water, just doing a little horizontal sweep, and then of course some grasses. I think grasses always make everything look good. And as we get further down the front, we're going to just see those grasses get a little larger, a little bigger, but also we'll get a few more ripples in the water. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten about the boat, but what I want to start doing now is building up the sense of space on the water. So I'm going to just start sort of creating a rippling shadow, bit of darkness under the boat, starting with this rather dilute shadow mix, and then we're going to start building it up. But I'm just using my size 2 brush, and I'm sort of trying to reflect the shape of the boat and of course the person sitting in it, but it's obviously not going to be a true reflection because there are ripples in the water. So we're just slowly building it up. And down in the front I'm going to take some green gold and just paint it into that slightly murky shadowy colour, and just build a little framing corner there, and maybe just a little bit down there. And what we're going to do with that is take some Payne's Grey and with the size 2 brush create some really rather large grasses, and you can see that combining the Payne's Grey with the green gold gives you this wonderful merging of the colours. And then I'm going to take my rigger brush and just get some really long grasses in there. And we can even turn some of those into reeds just by adding that little bit onto the long line. And now we can look at the actual figure in the boat. So that blush colour that I've had just very, very gently creeping around the edges is now, I'm now going to use that tone for some of the boat. So just get a little bit of the flesh tone, and we're gonna just create a bit of the pink tone on the inside of the boat to begin with. We need to let that dry, and then what we're going to do is paint a beautiful pea green boat. If anyone knows the reference, shout out in the comments below. So we're going to get a bit more of the green, and we're going to have a bit more of the brown. We'll turn that into a sort of khaki tone for the clothes, and then we've got the Payne's grey tones. So everything is going to be sort of very much in a colour palette. In fact, this is quite a good example of complementary colours, just in a rather unexpected manner. Pink and green, or reddy green, are complementary colours, and yeah, this is a rather unexpected way of putting them together. I've now picked up my smallest brush, my 4/10, because I'm going to start doing some rather small scale work. So I'm going to start building this figure. Now, if you're interested in drawing people and are not really sure where to begin, I know I bang on about it, but my Patreon really is an excellent place to go if you are looking to do more of this kind of thing. So what I'm going to do is just start to build up the shapes of the body, using just a sparing amount of colour, and then cleaning off the brush, coming back in, and just being really careful with filling out this shape, not being too heavy with the colour, but also knowing that we're going to need some proper light and shade to really build this figure. So I'm just getting the torso down, just using my colour palette that I've got. I think I'm going to put a hat. At the moment it all looks quite blobby, but we slowly build. But the other thing that's important to mention is when you're painting figures that are sort of far away or in the distance, you don't need to paint every last little detail, because the human eye does the rest of that for you. So we've still got some very sort of blobby hands, blobby face, but at that point I'm now going to move on to painting the boat itself. So I'm going to keep with my 4/10 brush for the moment. And I'm going to paint in the sides of the boat with the hope that we get a little bit of separation, and so some obvious sort of wooden slats down the side of the boat. I get asked a lot at the moment to create some cards that card designs that might be slightly less floral for people who aren't so into like florally things. Some people sort of specifically want a sort of male orientated card. So what, you know, whoever in your life might be into fishing or some kind of sport like that, then this would be a lovely card design. I must apologise because one of my patrons asked me if I would do a card like this and in time for Father's Day, and I just missed the boat, if you'll excuse the pun. But hopefully you'll be able to practice this all year and then be ready for Father's Day next year. So I'm just using some burnt sienna now to start to sort of define the interior of the boat a bit more. But as we've established, we've painted a rather sort of murky, covered over scene, haven't we? This boat is in quite shady surroundings, so we need to now spend a bit of time darkening everything down. So I've got my Payne's grey and just going to start to paint in a little bit of darkness and also a bit more proper shadow ripple under the boat. And getting a little bit of that green in there as well. Use my smaller brush for a bit more control. And we're just going to keep building up the ripples. So as it slowly dries, the surfaces become a bit more crisped up and you can start to add in just a little bit more detail and darkness. And so I'm now going to be able to just add the littlest bits. I'm going to go in with quite a dilute bit of shadow. I'm not really going to be doing a proper defined face, but a little bit of hair there. And just little sort of dabs of colour to suggest hand angles. But as I said, remember that the human eye does so much. And now we'll get the rod in. And I'm no fisher person, so I have no idea if I'm painting in sort of correctly. But I feel like I almost don't. Maybe we'll sort of pop in a very shadowy. There we go. A little bit further down, and then just it's a bit much on the brush. That's rather cool. Okay, so I'm just going to add a few last little ripples to the ripples we've already got. Ripples are surprisingly sort of dark and defined. If you think about it, it's all about the light hitting the water. But just keep your colours as part of the colour palette. And maybe they're just a little bit more faint towards the back. And to finish off, I just want to add just a lovely last little bit of detail, some of these rushes. Just to really make them stand out in the foreground. And there we go. That is a sort of slightly simplified person on a lake in a fishing boat. So let's peel off the layers, shall we, and see what we've got left. This is a very satisfying part of it all, isn't it? There we go. So we're going to let it dry 100%, but I'm just going to do a little bit of a pencil line, rub out the pencil lines and see what we're left with. So I gave it a quick rub out with pencil, and you can see just the suggestion of the figure in there. We didn't need to do too much to it, just sort of picking out the basic shapes. And there you have a lovely scene of a fisherman on a lake. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed that one. I want to say a huge thank you to my patrons for their support, because that support enables us to keep creating videos like these that everyone can enjoy. And don't forget, come and join the gang and get yourself a really awesome tote bag or the watercolour paper, because honestly it's absolutely fantastic. You won't regret it. So if you like this video, then hit the like button and comment below to let me know how you got on with it. And of course, if you never want to miss another video, then hit subscribe button and the little notification bell, and we'll see you again next time. Bye!